This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I've seen College, a silent comedy starring Buster Keaton, who co-directed the film with James W. Horne back in 1927. Keaton portrays a young man named Ronald, a high school graduate entering college, obviously, though not before offending every other student in his class with a speech about the uselessness of athletics, including his sweetheart, Mary, since, this is the 20s when you had sweethearts instead of girlfriends. Anyways, Ronald's new school just so happens to not only be where Mary is going, but is driven by a culture of athleticism and sports, pushing Ronald to do his best to join a team if he hopes to win Mary back. As you might expect, this doesn't go very well, especially as he not only faces athletic failure, but a rival suitor, since, this is the 20s, where you had rival suitors instead of... never mind. Anyways, once the main story framework gets settled in, the movie itself is a pretty straightforward ride through Ronald's attempts to get into a sports program, from baseball to track and field, all of which see him engaging in comical attempts to fit in only for his efforts to end in failure. That's admittedly a reductive way of describing it, but that's mostly because these scenes end up being a bit long-winded and repetitive. And worse, they lack the creative energy and wit that has been found in other Keaton movies I've seen here. Everything is far more grounded in reality, with the various comedy gags being based more upon physical ability than manipulating the world around the characters. It's still some pretty good comedy work, but more on an individual joke-by-joke level than anything to do with the story itself, which makes it all feel like this movie came about because they had the ideas or an opportunity to make these kinds of stunts, and then developed the story based upon these ideas rather than the other way around. It not only makes that actual story a bit weak, pretty much doing little more than justifying where and why these scenes are happening, but it ultimately makes for a story where Ronald is pretty much there more to be mocked by others rather than anything proactive or developmental on his end. It's pretty much an hour or so of his suffering, at least until the ending, which is when things finally ramp up, almost as if they remembered that he ought to win in the end. For a comparison, you could look at The Freshman, starring Harold Lloyd, which has much more depth in its story of a college freshman and their rise from the bottom of the social totem pole, compared to what little occurs in this film. In any case, College's technical aspects aren't worth much discussion, and not so much because they don't offer anything in the way of visual imagery or timing, but more because of how they're treated more practically across the board. We can see the stunts as they're pulled off in their full glory, and that's about it. It really does feel like the film was made as a platform for these stunts, and everything else was just an afterthought, almost as if the filmmakers assumed that Keaton's name alone would be enough to sell audiences on the movie. I don't know if that was actually the case, but it seems like it could have been. College. Buster Keaton, James W. Horne, 1927. 1.5 stars. It's really up to you if you want to watch this, but personally I wouldn't recommend it. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. For one of the more renowned names in silent comedy, I'm surprised I've only seen like two of Buster Keaton's movies that are actually good. Either this theater has different taste than me, or I'm just unlucky.